Okay, welcome everybody. It's March 2nd, and I am the president of the Austin Herb Society, and I'm really excited to welcome you to our monthly membership meeting. Today we have a fabulous speaker, Bill Varney from Urban Herbal, and he is going to talk to us all about the excitement of herbs. We're going to get right into the program, and after we hear from our wonderful speaker, we've got a really exciting opportunity at the end where we're going to have a chance to hear from you, all of our members and guests, about what survived in your garden. How did you get through the last week? And what is still out there? And what questions do you have about what you need to do to take care of that mess? So we will get to those survivor stories at the end. Now, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Aline Guillot, who is our Vice President of Programs, and ask Aline to introduce today's speaker.
All right. We welcome Bill Varney today from Urban Herbal out of Fredericksburg. Bill is a wonderful person who has given us information before in presentations. Anyway, Bill is, in addition to having this wonderful business since 2007, dealing with fragrances, he formulates his own fragrances. He is a chef. He's just a fascinating all-around Renaissance man, and we are looking forward to what he has to share with us today. He's going to be talking about the excitement of herbs, as Karen said earlier, which could cover just about anything Bill wants to talk about. All right, Bill, take it away.
Okay. Well, I'd like to say hello to everyone. I know lots of you from over the years, and I was trying to think of different things that we could talk about today that were different. And I've spoken on so many different subjects over the years. Most of you are already familiar with the last book I wrote, Herbs Grown and Using the Plants of Romance, and it continues to sell really well. And I'm always coming up with new recipes. And, I'm on the board of the Herb Society of America, so they're always asking me for recipes. And everybody that comes in the door of my store or the gardens, they're looking for new ways to use things. And so I thought it'd be more exciting today and more interesting to actually make some things using herbs and give you the recipes. So all the things that I chose to make today are not food things, which is what I normally specialize in as far as on my talks. I decided I would talk about making some things that you can make at home for your body. And the first one is an herb and chai salve. So obviously, like in anything, sometimes you have to prep. And so I had to prep this. And the first thing that I had to do was I put together this sesame oil. This is an organic sesame oil. And you have to blend the chai, because this first recipe we're doing is an herb and chai salve. So it's a salve you can use on your elbows. You can use it, on dry spots. You can put it on your temples if you want. You can put it, maybe where you just feel a dry spot or you need some moisturizing, or on your cheeks. And it's got a bunch of different herbs in it. But what you have to do on this sesame oil is you have to age it for 2 weeks. I had to speed up the process a little bit after I chose all the recipes and everything. And what I chose to do was I slightly warmed the sesame oil a few days ago. And then I took chai. So on my recipe, I call for using a fourth of a cup of chai and a fourth of a cup of sesame oil. So what I did was I used chai tea, the blend, and I've got that covered up here. And I'm going to filter the chai tea bags off here. And then what I've done is, I don't know how many of y'all have smelled fresh beeswax, but oh my gosh, just the smell of fresh beeswax by itself just makes you feel good. I don't know, sometimes when I get a good whiff of it, I just think, whoa, I could really enjoy that and so many things. They actually say that it doesn't make the best candles because you end up smelling the beeswax as well. And if you're truly trying to get a scent, that beeswax blends in. But I don't mind smelling it, but it's actually not quite the best burning material for a candle, but it's great for skincare. So I've already cut off the desired amount. And last night, when I was prepping, I had gone ahead and melted it down and I put it in a container. But of course, now it's hard, so I've got to remelt it. But what I did was I put it in parchment paper, and that way I can just peel it off right in front of y'all. And then I'm gonna, now that I've got it peeled off, can y'all see me okay? So I've taken the beeswax, I've got a little stick in it to hold it together. And then what I've done is I've, right over here, I've got a double boiler going. So I'm gonna move that double boiler so that it's in sight so everyone can see it. I'm gonna have to kind of finagle this around. You know, it was so funny, this portable burner that I'm using during our blackout that we recently had. I was out, my stove and oven are electric. Unfortunately, a chef would really like to have gas, but from a lot of my classes that I've taught over the years, I had these portable burners and they have little propane cylinders in them. And I dug those out, and thank goodness that saved me. I was able to cook some food during that time. So that was really helpful. So I have a double boiler here. I've already put water in it. I've already turned it on, and I have it going. So it won't take long for us to melt this beeswax in here. So while I'm doing that then, and I'm melting the beeswax down, then I'm going to add the other ingredients. So our other ingredients for this chai and herbal salve is, and I've already pre-measured on some of these things. I'm going to use a half a cup of sweet almond oil. So I've got my sweet almond oil right here. And I'm going to add that sweet almond oil to the beeswax that's currently melting. And then I'm going to add my Thai infused sesame oil. So all this is going to melt together. And while I'm melting this beeswax in here, and probably for time limit, we won't be able to get it completely melted, but maybe we'll. I can leave this aside and we can start another one. I was trying to figure out how to have it all coordinated, but you know, that's a bit hard. I melted it last night, and so I've got these chai sesame oil, and I've got the sweet almond oil in here, and then I'm going to add I've got the beeswax in here, and then I've got some vitamin E oil. So I'm just putting in on the a fourth of a teaspoon of vitamin E oil. And you know, on some of these things, just by themselves, like for instance, last night while I was melting the beeswax, you know, I don't know how many have ever had it like a paraffin dip, but my gosh, you know, you don't get the wax too hot, and you can just like put it on your hand and then peel the paraffin off, and oh my gosh, it's like a huge treatment. So some of these things by themselves are even really good for you. So I've added the vitamin E oil, and then in my recipe, I called for adding vanilla bean, but instead what I've got here is a vanilla oil. But hold on just a second, because I do have the vanilla bean that I want to show you. So you haven't lost me. I'm right here. I was just wanting to show you, you know, the, and I know all of you are familiar with fresh vanilla bean, but I use these fresh, certified, organic Madagascar pure vanilla beans. And, you know, because one of the other things that I make is I do a wonderful pure vanilla extract for cooking. So you can add the, so I say in here, 1/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla bean. So I'm going to add my vanilla bean, and I'm still stirring that around. And then it calls for adding a couple of drops of, let's see, cardamom. So I'm adding 8 drops of cardamom in here. So this is the cardamom oil, and it's all organic, natural cardamom oil. 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then it called for adding 6 drops of cinnamon essential oil. So I'm added my 6 drops of cinnamon essential oil. And then it called for ginger oil. So I had gotten some ginger oil, and I'm adding the 10 drops of ginger essential oil. And all the while, this is getting warmer, thank goodness, because I want to be able to pour it into the container with y'all with me here. And then it calls for clove oil. So I add the 6 drops of clove oil here. And then finally, one thing that I was going to tell y'all, I don't know if you've ever gone and looked and looked. Of course, I have suppliers. I buy some things 100 pounds at a time. But when I'm just doing smaller batches, things like this, I think, well, I don't have that one and I don't have that one. And it's amazing because last night I probably was double checking yesterday afternoon, and I have hundreds of different kinds of oils, but I didn't have any fennel oil. And this particular recipe calls for fennel oil. So what do you do when you don't have it? You make it. So last night, just to tell you how I made my fennel oil, I took a little bit of sweet almond oil and just a touch of olive oil. And in a small little pan, I warmed that oil up, and then I added fennel seeds to it. And I just warmed them, and then I took the back of a spoon and I kept crushing the fennel seeds and crushing the fennel seeds. So what turned out is a wonderful fennel oil that I made from scratch. And oh my gosh, my house smelled so wonderful last night when I was making that fennel oil. So I'm adding my 6 drops of fennel oil. So on these recipes, you know, if you can't find something, you can always substitute, or it's not the end of the world if you leave it out. But I was truly wanting to follow this recipe that I did for y'all for this salve completely all the way through. So right now, I'm gonna try to see if I can take the computer and down, y'all can see what's going on. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see it's still melting. So we got a little ways to go here. So it's all blended together. And then when it's melted, then I've got different kinds of containers that I can put the salve in. You can get containers at lots of different places. And a lot of times, you know, you can, I noticed so many of the grocery stores now are even selling little small bottles and different kinds of containers, the Container Store, you know, flea markets, places like that. So while this is continuing, and I'll keep an eye on this, we'll start on to the next skincare product that I wanted to make with y'all, because we got a little ways to go for this beeswax to finish melting. And I'll tell you, I wish you were here so that you could smell how absolutely wonderful all these oils blended together smell. And that's one of the things that I get so excited about herbs, is because the smells, they just trigger so many things and they make you feel better. I mean, if you're just kind of down about, we've obviously had the pandemic we've been dealing with, we've had a political crisis we've been dealing with, then we had this horrible ice storm, and it's like, my gosh, we need to keep cheering ourselves up. And one way to do that is through our sense of smell and our sense of taste, and all these herbs come in so handy for all that. And so I'm going to go ahead and start on the next recipe now while we're waiting for the rest of this beeswax to melt. And so the next one is a simple herbal wrinkle reducer. So on this recipe, there's really no cooking, it's just blending, and it's super, super easy. This recipe is great because of the ingredients that are in it, and it helps. You can, I actually have been using this, and you can put it like underneath your eyes, you can put it in between, above, in between your eyebrows up here, and then up on your forehead, spots where we tend to age, and we want to try to keep looking our best. And so just to give y'all an idea, it has sage in it. And here I've got some fresh sage to show y'all. And I'm using sage essential oil. And it has rosemary. And I've got rosemary over here for one of the other recipes I'm doing a little bit. Everybody knows what rosemary looks like. But unfortunately, in my gardens, it looks like we got so cold here that some of my rosemaries that were about 4 and 5 feet tall. It looks like they didn't make it. So we've been pulling out all kinds of things. And then the rosemary protects your skin from damage, wrinkles, and fine lines. Sage is rich in oxidants, antioxidants, and reduces aging and brown spots. And then I have oregano that I'm putting in it, and it's a storehouse of antioxidants that prevent free radical damage and daily and delay aging. And then it has cinnamon in it too. You notice the other recipe had cinnamon in it. And the cinnamon has anti-aging benefits that prevent collagen breakdown. And then I use olive oil in it, and that acts as an antioxidant. And and then it uses witch hazel. And the cool thing is, on the witch hazel, it actually helps keep your skin tight and clean. So on this particular recipe, I'm just taking a measuring thing here, and I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of witch hazel. And then set the witch hazel aside. And then I'm adding 2 tablespoons that I already have measured of extra virgin olive oil. And I'll add that. And then argan oil, which is, a little hard to find sometimes, but not too hard. And this is one of those things that it's just good, even if you just want to use some argan oil on your skin by itself. It's a great thing to use to help keep your skin looking young. And then I'm using 2 drops of sage. So here's my sage oil. And so I'm going to put, thank goodness, most of these have the little tiny deals where you can't pour too much in. So I've added the sage oil, and then I'm adding the rosemary oil. So here's the rosemary oil and 2 drops of that. And then the oregano oil. And here's the oregano oil. It's an organic, pure oregano oil. A couple of drops of that. And then the final thing is that cinnamon oil. And I add that in there. And look, there's one quick, easy, that's the cool thing about some of these things. You can make a lot of things and you can give them as gifts or whatever. And of course, it takes an investment. You would think that with as many, I'm sure I've got over 1,000 different oils in my laboratory and bulk ingredients and everything else. You'd think I would have everything, but it's just amazing. I think last night, that's the only thing is you've got an investment you have to make when you make a few things. And so that's the only thing that you might want to just buy a store-bought something, because you might not want to, but it's fun to make things. And it's also, it's fresh. And on all these things, I try to keep them and then sell them within a year's time so they stay fresh. I'm still melting my beeswax for this first recipe right now. But this one, the simple herbal wrinkle reducer, is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it into a little bottle. And then once I get it poured into the bottle, I'm going to shake the bottle really well. And you can always use smaller bottles. This is a little 1 ounce bottle, but you could use 1/4 ounce bottles and give them as gifts, because this alone is kind of a valuable oil here with all those different ingredients. And then the way you use it, see, I've got it all mixed. And this one, hold on, this one has one of those, once you put it on, it's got one of those little droppers on it. So here I've made it, and it's got the little dropper. Can you see that? So then I can just take a drop of it now that it's blended, and I can put it on my finger here. And I've put a little bit on, and then I can just, add a little bit to any spot that I want to keep looking young. So there you have it. And, obviously, I want to get a label and put a label on it. everything, but there's a simple herbal wrinkle reducer. And man, is that cool, because all these ingredients and all these herbs help keep you younger. And so we all want to keep looking younger to impress our friends and our family, instead of them looking at us like, oh my gosh, what happened to them? Hold on, I'm getting the next thing. So don't give up on me. I'm still here. Um, I tried to, I was mentioning earlier, I tried to put all these ingredients together, just as if when I do a cooking class, I always have, for whatever I'm doing, all the ingredients aside. So it's not like hunting and looking for them, especially when you've got people that you're working with. And so on this particular recipe, it's a rosemary and citrus temple rub. And so it's a, also can be put in a little salve container. And it also uses, I've already pre-measured the beeswax for it. So obviously I can't do that when I'm just going to talk to y'all about it, because it's basically the same type of thing as what we're doing here. And I've got one burner going here. So I'm not going to be able to interrupt on this one, but this rosemary and citrus temple rub, it uses a fourth tablespoon of olive oil. So I've already got that measured off here. And I used, I had a friend that here in Fredericksburg, and she went to Greece, and she brought me back a whole bunch of organic Greek olive oil. And she brought me back all these containers of them. So I've got wonderful, all natural olive oil that's from Greece here. And I've got that pre-measured. And then the avocado oil, I've got pre-measured, and it uses a tablespoon of avocado oil. And I put that in here. And then the beeswax, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it in here. And you know what I might do a little bit is when this one finishes, I can always go heat this and show y'all how easily it blended. And then this recipe is so simple. It uses 12 drops of rosemary oil, which, hold on just a second. So I've got this particular workspace. I can't just leave everything here because it'll get too cluttered. So thank you for that. So then I'm gonna add the 12 drops of rosemary oil, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. And then the lemon essential oil. So I'm going to use a dropper here because this is a big bottle. I use a lot of lemon oil in a lot of my products, between the herbal air fresheners and skincare products and even food products. So on this one, I'm using 12 drops of lemon oil. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. So there's 12 drops of lemon essential oil. And then I'm using 6 drops of grapefruit oil. So here's the all natural grapefruit oil. So 2, 3, 5, 6 of grapefruit oil. And just so that you know, I've got fresh lemons. I'm going to bring in a little bit and just show you something I did, right before it got so cold. Even though I keep my lemon trees in my big greenhouse, it was so cold, and we were without energy too. And I heat my greenhouse with propane, a big blasting propane heater at one end of the greenhouse, and a big blasting kerosene heater at the other end. Well, the problem is they still take electricity just to push the fans of that heat. And I called the city of Fredericksburg a few times during the blackouts, and I said, look, I have to have electricity. I'm not going to use much, but I have to have some. They couldn't help me. And so what I was having to do constantly was, every time our electricity would go out, I'd have to rush back out of the greenhouse. So I'd go out like at midnight and 2 and 4 in the morning to the greenhouse, and because I had to restart them to get blast of heat back in there. Thank goodness I really didn't lose much of anything, but to be safe, I went ahead and picked all my lemons. And so I have all these big jars that I'll show y'all. These are some lemons from my lemon tree. And I decided, well, I don't have that much time right now. I got so many other things going on. So I dig big jars of preserved lemons. And if you've ever made preserved lemons, they're super easy to make. So on this recipe, I used the grapefruit oil, the rosemary oil, the lemon oil, the olive oil. and the avocado oil. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm adding 6 drops of orange oil. So I'm going to get my dropper out here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 orange oil drops here. So this blend is ready for us to melt that one. And then that'll make a great salve to put in a little container. And this is a great one to reduce stress, you know, and rub it on the back of your neck and on your earlobes and on your temples. Helps relax you. It's got the benefits of rosemary, and it's got all these citrus. The original one that I saw, it just used lemon, and I looked at it and I thought, oh no, I gotta have the benefits of the grapefruit and the orange as well, because I love citrus things. I don't know about y'all, but it's clean, it's fresh, they're good for you. And I think grapefruits are so good for you. And so, you know, on some things, if you have to take a medicine, sometimes they'll tell you not to eat fresh grapefruit. But, you know, I think anything in moderation is good for you as long as you don't overdo it. So this one's ready to heat, but we don't have our, we're down to this much. The beeswax is almost melted on our first recipe here. So we'll be done with that in just a little bit. So I'm going to set this one aside, and we'll be able to heat this up in just a little bit. And then we'll start on the next thing that I'm making. So the next item, I took 4 cups of distilled water, and I'm putting those into a pan. And this will be another item that I'll put on the burner here in just a little bit. I don't want to, you know, the thing is, I don't want to get the burner so hot that I scorch it and have a burned flavor, even though it's a double boiler. So I kind of melt things slowly because I don't want to overdo it. And this next thing that we're making, it's a rosemary scalp and hair tonic. And I've already added to the distilled water the borax. And I started warming. So the good thing is we've already got a start on the warmth of the water. And the only ingredient you use is 4 cups of distilled water and fresh rosemary and a half a cup of borax. And so while I was heating that water earlier, I already added the borax. And let me just tell y'all, you know, rosemary is an antibacterial, antifungal. It's great for your scalp and great for your hair. It helps hair growth. A lot of people didn't know that. And it treats dandruff. And borax removes dirt and sweat from your scalp. It also protects the color of your hair and maintains natural oil on your scalp. This terminates harmful bacteria that can make scalp, you know, come into your, that can make, you know, things want to be in your scalp. And borax controls flaking and itching. And so pretty simple tonic to make. So I take the fresh rosemary and I add it here. You can see I add it to the water. And so we'll put that on the water too in just a little bit. And this is almost completely melted here. And I think just about get this off this stick now. And I'm going to move the computer so y'all can see that it is just about, the first thing is just about melted here. So can y'all see that? So it's just a hair left. And so this is for the herb and chai salve. And when that last little bit is melted, I'm going to pour it into a container, and then you can let it cool in the container and then use it. And then we can do the next item here. So I think that we're close enough now that I'm going to take this little square container and take the lid off of it. And then I'm going to pour this into there. And you can see, I'll get the put it down here. You can see it here. I use parchment paper in the bottom of the pan, so if any spills over, I can just peel it off, and I'll put the lid back on it once it dries up. So now we can take this away and set this aside, and we can start heating our distilled water with the borax and the rosemary, and get that one going. And then we have the other couple ones doing. And like you said, they'll be able to get each of these recipes. And and I suggest that once you make up one of these recipes, you label it and then you date it, and then you use it within a year's time. I don't ever have any trouble using things up. I use things up much quicker than a year's time. So I just have to tell you that I just love things that are made fresh and natural. One other thing that I'm really into is, you know, I'm not even sure. I think it might even date back to the 1200s or 1300s, but that's Queen of Hungary water, which I didn't give y'all the recipe on, but I just want you to see this, how simple this is. It's like an old-fashioned cologne, and it uses thyme and rosemary and mint and sage. And a lot of recipes call for using apple cider vinegar, but I don't want to smell like apple cider vinegar. So I either use vodka or I'll use Everclear, and then I'll blend all these herbs, and then I'll add a little bit of rose flower water. And y'all know I make a really good, I'm one of the few people in the country that makes an ongoing rose flower water that's all natural that you can use in cooking. And I add a little bit of rose flower water, and then I add a little bit of distilled water, and I add those herbs to it, and I'll let it age. And then I strain it off, and then I put a little sprig into each little bottle and do that. So, you know, there's so many fun things that you can make that are easy to make. You just need to get your ducks in a row. And making skincare products is no different than making a cake or making cookies or doing a certain kind of fish or something else like that. And so I get a lot of enjoyment out of a lot of the things that I make, because not only are they good products, but you're using natural ingredients and they're good for you. I mean, I like it when people tell me that when they use one of my allergy relief tea, that it really helps improve their allergy problems and things like that. And I love it when somebody tells me a story about, oh, my mother only uses your rose flower water on her skin, and she's been using it for 25 years. Hard for me to realize sometimes. Like, I have a lady that recently came into my store, and she needed a number of things, and she's been a customer since she was a teenager, and her kids have now finished college. And she first came into my store when it was Varney's Chemist Lodge on Main Street, and I'm just blown away because I think, wow. And I'm doing a large, very large landscape job out at Boot Ranch. I don't know if many of you have heard about this Boot Ranch, but it's one of the highest end places in the state of Texas. And just to get in there and become a member, it's, you know, a few $100,000, and then you have to buy the piece of property. And most of the houses being built are anywhere from $1 to $5 million. And so when she was here, her husband is really successful, and she was sharing with me that she used to come with her mom and dad when she was a teenager, and that this last year her mom had passed away, not from COVID, but just from, you know, life and age. And she said, you know, it'd been so hard on her dad. And she said, you know, I'm here for a couple more days, Bill. Anyway, you're going to be going out to your Boot Ranch job. She said, we sold our second home in Hunt, and my husband really doesn't like to come down there unless he can golf. And Boot Ranch is known for golfing. So unbeknownst to me, you know, she, you know, I let her come with me out there. And I told her when I got up to my client's place, I saw that my client was there inspecting some things because they're moving here from Fort Worth. So I got permission from her, my client, to let the other lady look around and that they might be interested. And within a week after I took her out there, her husband was so excited that they found an already built Sunday house out there at Boot Ranch. And I helped Boot Ranch with receiving a new customer, and they bought almost $1 million place within 10 days. But the cool thing for me is the fact that she comes in and she buys my products, and she's been buying them since she was a teenager. Sometimes I look at those numbers and I think, my God, I can't be that old. So look, you can see now I'm heating the water up with the borax already in it. If you want, while that's heating up, and you'll be able to distribute the recipes to everybody. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer questions for you. I'm sorry about that little fumble right there.
Bill, this is Eileen. We do have several questions, and I know we don't mind while you're waiting for that to go ahead and ask those. Several people wanted to know, where do you buy or where do you get your essential oils and also your beeswax? It's wonderful
Okay.
to know that you make some of them from scratch, but where else do you get them?
Well, unless I have to have, I'll just show y'all. I'm going to move this time I'm going to hold it with both hands. You can see here in my laboratory, I got some cans that are huge. These companies that I buy from, they don't sell to individuals. I mean, like, for instance, if I get a big can of something that I use all the time, they have a minimum of 5 pounds. So you can imagine 5 pounds, how many ounces that is. That would be more than I think most anybody would want. And so, places like Whole Foods and even HEB now has name brand places, or you can go on to Amazon. I find that this company, NOW, they do really good essential oils. I hear about different ones, and I'm appalled sometimes how many places call something an essential oil, and come to find out when you look closer at the tag, you find out that it's been diluted with other oils. And I like, to get something that's 100% pure, and so this now, like for instance, here's some now lemongrass oil, and right there on the very front, it says 100% pure. And here's juniper berry oil that I use, and it's 100% pure juniper berry oil. Some of the others that I get, I get from a company, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but I'll send you an email after the presentation day of a couple of other companies that you can let the members know, a couple of other companies to get good essential oils from. Because there's one that I think a lot of people, it's kind of like, I think, a level system where you can go in there and buy. It's a tiered system, but I heard that a lot of their oils have been diluted. And so, it's frustrating,
That
and
is a
then,
problem. That is a
what,
problem, especially with
yes,
CBD oil. You have to be really careful getting
I
CBD.
know. And so, what was besides the oils, was there another question? I'm sorry.
Yes, about beeswax. Where do you get your
Oh,
beeswax?
okay. I get the beeswax from Lone Star Candle Supply, and they're up in the Fort Worth area. So if you just go online to Lone Star Candle Supply, they've got different kinds of waxes. Because in my store I sell candles, and so I get the beeswax. And actually, what happened was I had a client. They're a really, really well-known decorator up in Chicago, and they've known me for a number of years. And they said to me about a year and a half, 2 years ago, they said, Bill, we would like for you to make an all-natural beeswax furniture polish. So I looked up and I figured out a way, but then I thought, well, I want it to have a scent. So, like, for instance, I have a very nice, elegant dining room table that I tested it on. And, some people don't want to use furniture oil, or they want to buff that beeswax oil into their furniture, which really, it takes a lot of work, because you put it on, then you have to buff it and buff it and buff it. But I wanted them scented. So what I did was I did one that was a lavender scented beeswax furniture polish. And then I did another one that was a citrus scented beeswax polish. And so, I wanted to make sure that I was getting really good, high quality beeswax. And you can tell, like, that Lone Star Candle Supply, look, I need this kind of wax, or I need that kind of wax. And if they're out of it, they'll tell you. And then uh, I can tell you another supplier, but I'll have to email that to you too.
Okay, we had one more question that I know
Okay.
of, which is talk about going from the old fashioned to the very modern. Can you use a microwave to melt your beeswax?
You can. Yeah, you can. Of course, what you got to be careful is, you know, it can explode on, you can have a huge mess. And so, because sometimes you put something in a microwave and you hear things pop and you hear things and you're like, oh my gosh. And so the thing that worries me about beeswax is that if it got to that point, I would have such a mess because I'd have wax that I'd be trying to wipe out of that. And so sometimes I'll put it in there with a cover over it just to soften it a hair before I put it in the double boiler. So you can see. Oh, and so then what I wanted to do too, I'm going to use both hands again so I don't drop things like I did a minute ago. You can see how the rosemary is turning green now. The water is turning green with the borax in it. So it won't be long and it'll be ready. And then the nice thing about that, you just put it in a bottle and use it. So a lot of these things are just super easy to make. And, sometimes I know I was talking to a friend over the weekend and she was telling me, yeah, I've gotten some homemade skincare products before that people made up for Christmas gifts or whatever. So, it's kind of a fun thing to make some things yourself, I think.
All right. Do we have any other questions? If anybody else wants to ask a question, please enter it in the chat screen and I'll ask Bill. Someone did comment, Kate Alsobrook also commented that you can get good essential oils at Wheatsville Co-op and Fresh Plus, Natural Grocers, and I believe Sprouts carries some as well. Any of the natural food stores will
Yes.
have it. It's not cheap though, Bill, you're right.
Right. I think just last night, the few other ingredients that I needed that I didn't already have, I think I spent $85 last night for a few more ingredients to be able, because I didn't want to, you could always say, oh, this is that and this is that, but I'm not that way. Even though we're doing it by Zoom, I want to make sure that I'm using the real thing exactly as I'm saying, because I don't like to pull anybody's leg. And so, but I'm really happy, how simple each of these recipes are, and they're foolproof. You can't go wrong. The only thing, is you might uh, you know, I would use a double boiler, for melting the wax, just because that way you don't scorch the wax, you don't burn the things. And the last thing you want to have with a skincare product is have a burnt smell on it. And just a regular pan, you can have that happen. But like, for instance, with heating this borax uh, water with the rosemary, there's really nothing that can go wrong unless I left it on there for too long. So
Bill, John also commented, Roberta's John, that you can make a double boiler with a small pot inside a larger pot. So it's not like you have to go buy a double boiler necessarily. And
right.
Norris also asked, how's your business doing? Is it open to visitors?
Yes, the business, actually, it's been amazing. This last year, I know so many businesses have been hurting, and they, because people aren't getting out as much, but my internet business has done very well. Last year when the pandemic first came out, actually an Austin client of mine, they were just about to do the lockdown and stuff, and she has a bicycle tour company there in Austin. She brings groups out here, and she had brought some clients out here, and they'd done a bicycle tour, and then she brought them by my store, and she was bragging to them about my herbal hand sanitizer, which I've been making for years. And actually a client came to me over 10 years ago and asked me if I would start doing a hand sanitizer that had herbs in it. And she said, I'll be a really good client, Bill, and I'll tell others. So I've been making this one for years. Well, this client of mine in Austin, she told these ladies about it, and she had to leave to get back to Austin. The ladies were spending the night. They came back the next day and they each bought like 6 bottles. And then my client in Austin that has the bicycle tour company, I don't know, there's some kind of a little neighborhood chat thing in her neighborhood there in Austin. And she told everybody, and she took a picture of my hand sanitizer because it exceeds the CDC requirements. And so she made this post. Then some of those people shared it in her neighborhood. And then with that sharing of that post, then within a week, I got over 65 orders for my hand sanitizer. And then I asked her if I could cut and paste her little blog thing and what she wrote about my hand sanitizer. Because you all know when you have a customer that writes something up and then that word spreads, it's better than any ad you can place. And so she said, of course you can do that. Well, I sent out an email to all my customers. And so over the next number of months, you know, my internet sales had really picked up last year. And then I mentioned to you Boot Ranch. So it was before the pandemic started. I have this client that's been a very good client for years. And she had approached me because she's always loved my gardens. And she said that they were building a home at Boot Ranch. And she wanted me to design the gardens around their home. And I used to be a landscape buyer for a big nursery in Houston. And I sell plants. I have a small nursery, but I hadn't really done any landscape jobs in years. And I used to be asked once in a while to put in an herb garden. Well, this project is major. I mean, it's the home has a slate roof. You'll go through a courtyard to get to the front door. And then when you go out the back door of the house, you'll go through a courtyard to get to a pergola. And so we haven't even started planting yet. And it's a good thing with that horrible freeze we just had. I was out there every day last week with some guys before I would open, get them going. And we had to get all the trees pruned that were broken from all the ice storm. So, and then from that job that I'm still got months of work to do, I got 3 other landscape jobs last year. And then it's very interesting too, because I guess part of it just has to do with people have been kind of looking at their lives differently and they've been staying home more. I've sold more art in my gallery in the last year than I'd sold in 5 years.
My
So
goodness. That's
sales,
wonderful, Bill. Listen, we
yeah,
have one more question, and then I wanted to just make a little comment before we finish up here.
okay.
One of our members asked if you can remember, what oils did you use with the fennel? You had a fennel
Oh,
recipe?
so on that fennel, homemade fennel recipe, I used a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of uh, safflower oil, you know.
Safflower, was it avocado oil or
Oh,
safflower?
it was avocado oil. And look
Avocado.
here, this is this avocado oil, and I get this one at Costco.
Mhm.
And I get an olive oil from Costco too. And one of my good friends, she's a really well-known chef, and she taught some classes when I was doing a lot of cooking classes. And she one time had done a lot of research on olive oils, and she said, you know, a lot of times people think they got to have this super expensive olive oil. And I showed you the little ones that I had that a friend had brought back to me. But on a regular basis for making a lot of my products, I just use, as long as it's an extra virgin olive oil and it's always in a green bottle, I just use a lesser expensive one. She said that some of even the one, the olive oil from Walmart, she said is one of the best olive oils you can get. So,
That's good. Listen, somebody also commented, Jennifer commented that you can get essential oils at the Indian market called Man Prashad.
oh,
That's, I guess, here in Austin. So for your
okay.
information. And also, is your borax rosemary concoction ready to
Yes.
bottle, or is there
So,
something else you need to tell us?
look, so
So
see what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it back into here without the rosemary. Here, I'm going to pour it the other way so y'all can see. Wait, let me re-angle this. See, you can see it's a beautiful, all natural green color from the blending of the rosemary there. And then all I'm going to do is on this, I could put it in a blue bottle, but I like putting things because I'll store it in a cabinet in my medicine cabinet. So it's not going to get any bright light in there anyway. So on this, I can just bottle it in a bottle here.
And what is that used for? I forgot what it's used for.
It's used for the hair and the scalp.
Oh, that's right. Hair and
Yeah.
scalp.
And so you can see how beautiful of a color it's turned. And you obviously need to let it cool off before you use it because you don't want to put something that just came out of boiling on your hair. And then you're supposed to, when you use it, you'll see you I put it in this little bottle for now, but what I'll do is I'll later transfer it to a little spray bottle. So I have some little spray bottles, and I've got some around. And what you do is you just spray it into your, you can either have your hair wet or you can have your hair dry, and you spray this rosemary scalp tonic into your hair, and you massage it with your fingers into your hair, and then let it sit there for a few minutes. And then you just shampoo your hair as you normally would and rinse it. And it helps leave your hair squeaky clean and makes your hair shinier, and just makes the rosemary also helps with hair growth. So, and new hair. And I find that when I actually use a rosemary oil in my hair, and it helps naturally keep your hair darker from anyway, it's a great tonic and it's a great thing to use. So from here, I really need to put it into a spray bottle. Like here's a spray bottle that had something. So just any kind of a spray bottle you will want to use that you pour it into and use it like that. Another thing that I still needed to melt, but we don't have the time for me to finish melting that.
We are so excited. You have been so interesting. And I wish we had time. We don't have time today to take a virtual tour of your shop. But Karen commented that as soon as we can get out and about again, that we want to come by for a field trip to your place in Fredericksburg. So be on the lookout. We'll be contacting.
Yeah, and then if you let me know ahead of time, I could always do something where, maybe I could have a dessert for all of y'all and a refreshment or something like that. And yeah, I see y'all have put my social media links. So my son, his job that he got a few years ago after he got his master's degree is head of social media for the Texas Retired Teachers Association. So he's always telling me, Dad, the more you can get people to follow you on your social medias, and then for them to share some of your things, I try really hard. He's always giving me pointers, but he doesn't have the time to help me. But he gives me pointers. And he says, Dad, try to post fairly often. Doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's something with landscape or whether you're making a new product or whether it's the dinner you made for yourself. Because obviously everything I do has herbs in it. So, and then I had also sent you that, and I see you put it on there, that new blog. And I was so amazed that I got that. And the lady and her husband had come here last fall, and they had asked me to do a private dinner for them. And then unbeknownst to me, she didn't tell me that she had a travel blog. So that was pretty cool to see that.
All right. Well, thank you again, Bill. This has been so fascinating. We appreciate you. We want to see you soon.
Thanks.
And
And y'all can go online and shop with me online, or when you do get the chance, it's always fun to come out and see somebody else's garden. So
wonderful, wonderful. All right, that's it for Bill's presentation. We're going to go on to the rest of our meeting, Bill. You're welcome to stay if you feel like it, or leave our meeting at your leisure, whatever you choose.
I'm probably going to leave the meeting because I need to get my store opened.
Okay.
Understand that.
Thanks again, Bill. Thank you. Bill,
Right.
We love your energy. We love your theories and energy and enthusiasm, and we're glad to have you as one of our members and sponsors. Thanks again.
Yeah. I love your group. You've always been so great. Thanks. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.